and welcome to the very first episode of Offbeat Black Girl Podcast. Woo! Mm, 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 mm. That was my very bad offbeat chair dance, okay? It was a celebration dance. It looks bad though, but I'm so glad to be here. So excited. The very first episode, right? So the whole point of the first episode, obviously, is the introduction episode, right? It's the introductory episode where you kind of get to know a little bit about me, a little bit about my background, where the idea for this podcast came from, and kind of the direction that we're going to be going in. So I'm super excited and so glad to be here. So let me start off with hello again. I'm Fee Stefan, and this is Offbeat Black Girl Podcast. One of the reasons that I really wanted to create this podcast is number one, for it to be more of a therapeutic thing for myself. I like encouraging safe spaces for Black women and women of color to be able to talk about things that a lot of times either we don't feel comfortable talking about or that we don't necessarily have a place, a safe place to discuss these things like stress, like anxiety, like, the idea that we have to have everything kind of all together, that we constantly have to, be perfect or have everything exactly lined up the way it's supposed to be. And if you don't, then you've fallen off or you ain't got your stuff together. And, there's a lot of pressure to perform well. And there's not really a lot of places, in my opinion, where you can just go and be like, I'm not okay. I'm not good. I'm not okay today. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed out. My anxiety is through the roof. And today I'm not okay. I see a lot of memes and things are always like, check on your strong friend or check on your friend that always seems like they're okay. And so this is a place where I encourage women, especially women of color, because I feel like a lot of times we are either overlooked or just expected to have it all together. Like we have this hard shell or this hard exterior to where, we can handle it all and we're tough and we can figure it out. We'll always figure it out. We'll always make a way. But, that's not always the case. Or just because we have to be this way in order to get things done, in order to function, that doesn't necessarily mean that we want to be that way. We want to be soft. We want to have opportunities where we can just be vulnerable and let our hair down. So, again, that was why this platform is really important for me, to have a place to kind of release and have an outlet to really let my thoughts go. But also to encourage other women to do the same thing, to find a way. It doesn't have to be a podcast, it doesn't have to be some type of public platform, but find a way so that you have a space of release. Find a way or a method for you, some form of self-care, so that you can get out those thoughts so they're not constantly weighing on you. And so that's where the idea for Offbeat Black Girl Podcast came from. It is a place where we encourage you to find your own voice, but it's also a space for me. So I'm Fee. Hey again. And while you're tuning into this podcast, you'll get a chance to really follow me on my self-healing, self-building journey as well. So for me, self-healing is a constant thing, where I think, oh girl, I got it, and I'm on this uphill. I'm chugging along, on this train, and I'm doing so well. And there's times where it's like, boom, I've fallen flat on my butt, and I feel like I'm at a standstill. And for so long, I really had this misconception that self-healing was like this end all type of thing. Like it's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? So I'm supposed to keep chugging along until I get there and I meet my goal, and I'm done. I don't have to heal anymore. I've made it. I've reached the finish line. And for some people that might be the case. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but for myself, that was not that was not the case. Where self-healing for me was a continuous journey that I'm going to be on for the rest of my life. I'm going to constantly build and constantly learn about myself and constantly teach myself new things. And in that journey, I'm going to continue to level up for the rest of my life. I'm going to continue to get better. And there may be times where I'm just stuck, stagnant right here. I can't quite reach this level, and that's okay. You know, right now, this is where I need to be. And eventually I'll get there, maybe. And I might fall a little bit underneath that as well. But it's a continuous going. You know, that machine at the gym that's like the stairs and you're like walking on it and it's like never ending stairs, you know, and it's supposed to help your hips and your glutes, you know, have you that nice hourglass figure, but there's no like end. You know, you can't get to the top of the steps. You're just constantly walking, 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 walking. And, you know, you're not going to reach the end. The end result is the nice body, the nice frame, you know, the nice bottom, right? So in my mind, that's what it is. It's a continuous staircase where I'm constantly climbing, constantly trying to get to that moment. So, you know, that's where I am. So coming onto this podcast, tuning into this podcast, you'll get real life experiences from myself, you know, and it's been interesting for sure. It's been interesting being me. Yeah. We'll talk about a lot of my stress and anxiety that I've dealt with, depression, even times where I've had suicidal thoughts, and then times where I really felt like I hit rock bottom, where I felt like this is it. You know, I don't see myself climbing out of this. I don't see myself digging out of this. This is it. This is where I'm going to be. And either I can choose to stay here, choose to end my life, choose to be done, or I can choose to find the motivation, find something that'll motivate me to climb up out of this space. And sometimes that was somebody else say, I'm going to drag you out of this space because you can't do it yourself. And there were some times where I had to get myself up, bruised and beaten and battered, and dig myself out of that hole. And being able to talk about my experiences is therapeutic for me. And we'll get in a little bit to why that is. So, you know, for me, I grew up born and raised in South Carolina. And so growing up in the South, in my household, I won't speak for everyone's household, but in my household, children were very seen, not heard. Like that was a thing in the South where you stand there, you look cute, you follow instructions, but you don't speak. You don't really have an opinion. I remember, you know, hearing things like, you know, what are you sad about? You don't have no bills. What are you upset about? You know, you're a child. What you got to be upset about? What you got to be depressed about? What you have to be bothered about? You know, and so as a child, I felt like my feelings and emotions a lot of the times were dismissed. You know, where I would be upset about something or have a feeling about something, but I didn't have that platform to really express myself because I was a child, you know. And then, you know, for those of you that grew up in the South, you know, anytime you were to be expressive about your opinion, or especially if you were to ask questions, you know, question an adult or an elder, it was considered disrespectful. You know, there was not really that platform for you to question instructions that you were given, or rules that were given to you or that were enforced and things like that. There wasn't really that platform for that because it was considered disrespectful. One of those, because I said so. Even one of those do as I say, not as I do. I can't be like, well, Mom, you know, you don't do that. So why do you want me to do that? Or what's the reasoning behind you enforcing this for me because you don't enforce it for yourself? There was not that platform and that place for me to be able to do that. And so being a child who had to suppress so much emotion, so many feelings, my opinions on things, it, you know, turned into, you know, transitioned to an adult who did not know how to express her feelings, who did not know how to communicate what she was feeling, and was taught that how she felt, you know, about things wasn't as important. You know, how I felt wasn't important. And that sucked. And it took me until my late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, to really be like, that's not okay. That's not okay. As a child, I spent so much time trying to be like this people pleaser, trying to make my mom happy, trying to make my grandma happy, trying to just follow the rules, stay quiet, stay out of the way, stay unseen, so that I don't cause any confrontation, I don't cause any trouble. Doesn't matter if I feel a certain type of way about this or that. I'm just going to follow instructions. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And what happens is I end up not knowing how to speak up for myself. I end up learning this mentality that what I think doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. And as an adult, especially as a young adult, I ended up finding myself in situations where I did not protect myself. Situations where I should have spoke up. Situations where I should have said, I don't like that. Don't do that to me. I don't like how you're talking to me. I don't like how you're treating to me. Listen to me. I have an opinion. Listen to me. I didn't do that. And so there were so many situations where I was taken advantage of. I was really naive to things. I was, I didn't protect myself. I didn't know how to protect myself. I didn't know how to speak up for myself. And I found myself in situations where I was unsafe. I was uncared for. It hurts. It hurts. And it didn't have to be that way, But because of the environment that I grew up in, that was how it transitioned into adulthood. So a lot of my childhood trauma and things like that, as I became older, I didn't know how to deal with a lot of things. I wasn't prepared for a lot of things in life because I wasn't given that platform to speak up. I wasn't given that platform to be heard. And a lot of times, I don't think we realize how many things from our childhood affect us as an adult. Even things that we suppress and push down and I'm just not even going to deal with these things. I'm going to push them to the side. We don't see, further on into the future how they can remanifest, how they can resurface. And so for me, it took a while, a long while, like 20 something years, to really see or understand why I behave the way I behave, why I do the things that I do or do the things that I did, why I interpret things the way that I do, why I get so frustrated and so angry, and so erratic when I feel like I'm not being heard. If I feel like somebody's trying to dismiss me, or I feel like somebody's not valuing my opinion or listening to something that I'm saying, I'm immediately pissed off. I'm angry. I'm like, you're not listening to me, or you're not hearing what I'm saying. And now I want to fight. Now I'm pissed. Like, how dare you not value my opinion? How dare you just go right past what I said or ignore what I said? So a lot of that animosity that I feel comes from that little girl who wasn't heard, that little girl who wasn't given the platform, the opportunity to be heard, that little girl whose opinion didn't matter. And so once I really started digging into why things bother me, or why I things cause me certain amounts of anxiety, or why I have certain triggers to my anxiety, it was a better way for me to understand for me to understand me. And then I could use that to become a better version of myself. And so that is why I'm so passionate about having some type of platform to be heard, some type of platform to be able to speak your mind, for women of color to be able to say, I'm not okay. a platform for women of color to be like, I don't like that, I'm triggered by that, I feel anxiety or stress from that, and have real conversations. That is what I'm passionate about, because I know how something which it seems so small and minute, communication, can manifest in such a bigger way, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, all these different things. So that is where this podcast came from. And of course the term offbeat, number one, is literal, because it really feels like no matter what music's playing, it's R&B, it's hip hop, it's pop, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna be like a half a second behind. And my sister, my boyfriend, like everybody always like, no. I was one of those black girls and unfortunately was not blessed with natural rhythm. It just didn't happen. Like in my mind, I got it and I'm hearing it and I got it. But if you if you rewind and watch the video, no, it was not it. I'm still having a good time though. Trust me, I'm having a good time. I'm doing my 2-step. I'm in there. It's just not on beat. So literally offbeat is a literal term, right? But also it could be termed figuratively as well. How I spent so much of my life, even as a child, preteen, teenager, young adult, young mom, all these different phases of my life, right? Where I felt a second behind everybody else, where I felt like I just wasn't quite there. I just didn't quite have that. I just didn't quite have the tools that I needed to be successful. I didn't quite have the platform, the resources that I needed to maneuver in a certain way in life, where I always feel just a little bit off, right? So that term figuratively offbeat black girl, just being a black girl, a black woman trying to get on beat, trying to be on a level playing field. And even so, right? Just thinking about it, do I have to be on the same beat as everybody else? I think about it because, I look at, artists when they're making beats or when they're, putting those masters and things in the studio. If you look at it and you see like there's different layers, right? There's like the drums, and then there's the piano, and then there's like the little ad libs, and there's the song itself, and then there's like so there's different layers, right? And just because somebody's on this layer of the song and I'm on like a lower layer, or maybe that one after that, I'm still there, just not in the same as everyone else, right? So turning that mentality of trying to get where everyone else is, right? Feeling like we have to be exactly where everyone else is, and instead finding our own rhythm, right? So the whole, idea behind Offbeat Black Girl Podcast is my personal journey to self-healing, right? My real life experiences and learning that it's okay for me to be a little bit offbeat, right? And that I can find my own rhythm. And it took till my mid 30s, literally, for me to realize that it's okay for me to be on my own beat, for me to dance, to sway, to gyrate, to move with my own rhythm, to my own beat, do my own thing. That is okay. So it's a declaration, almost a proclamation, almost, to where, I am who I am. And that's amazingly, perfectly okay, right? So, that is where that comes from. It makes me think about another podcaster, right? I can't remember her can't remember the name of her podcast. I think her name is Bree. I can't remember the name of her podcast. It'll come back to me. But she said something, so I'm not taking credit for this. She said it. Give yourself grace, right? Give yourself grace. And I thought that was like amazing. Like when I heard it, it was like this like aha moment, right? Because when you think about it, we give so much grace to everyone else, to literally everyone else. At least for me, I will speak for myself in this instant, right? I give so much grace to everybody else. I'm always thinking about what could be going on with that person, maybe why they lashed out, or why they seem irritable, or why they seem upset, or why they're being snippy and snappy with me, right? If I know I didn't do anything. So I'm constantly like, maybe that person's having a bad day, or maybe that person's having an off day. Maybe she didn't sleep well. Maybe she's got something going on in her personal life. All these different things as to why they are maneuvering the way they are maneuvering, giving them so much grace and understanding. And so when she said, give yourself grace, it really made me think about how hard and critical I've been towards me. Like, sheesh, I can literally give someone else so many passes and so much understanding, right? And I can't give that same understanding and grace to me. How does that happen? How does that happen, right? I'm so hypercritical of myself, so hard on myself. I think about how I could have done better as a mom, right? How maybe I'm not spending enough time with the kids, or maybe I'm not, I'm working too much, or I should have cooked instead of ordering food, and all these different things, which, we'll go into a whole nother episode on mom guilt. Trust me, right? I think about how maybe I could have been better communicating with someone, or how I could have been better at work, or, trying to be the best friend, trying to be the best sister, trying to be the best aunt, trying to be, all these different things to so many different people, and how I'm so hard on me. Even when I get emotional, right? Even when I'm upset, even when I'm, broken down and crying and just overwhelmed with emotion, I will go back and be like, oh, I handled that all wrong. How dare I lash out? How dare I talk to someone this way? How dare I feel this way? How dare I have those feelings and emotions? Like my feelings and emotions are not real. Like my feelings and emotions are not valid. Which again goes back to that, somewhat childhood trauma where I did not feel like I should have certain feelings. I did not feel like I should be able to express those emotions. So then when I have them as an adult, I'm so hard on myself. Like, I can't believe you didn't stay calm. I can't believe you didn't practice, all that Zen that you be talking about or whatever. I can't believe you lashed out. Like, my feelings and my real raw emotions are not valid. So giving yourself grace, and I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about anybody who happens to be listening to this podcast, right? Giving yourself grace, allowing yourself that understanding that you give to every single body else, that patience that you give to everyone else, giving that to yourself, right? So all of that encompass and all those different layers falls up into what you see today, feed, right? Still, even now, trying every single day to figure out what is best for her, to figure out what works for her, so that I could continue building taking those steps, that Stairmaster, right? Continue every day, though my legs hurt, though my thighs hurt, though my butt is hurting, every single day, taking those necessary steps so that I can be a better version of me, right? A better version of me. And so that is what encompasses what makes up Offbeat Black Girl. So with all that being said, I'm going to conclude our very first episode, right? This amazing step, the first step to what I feel like is going to be an amazing journey, right? An amazing documentation of this constant self-healing that we're doing on a regular basis. Every day we wake up and we're choosing ourselves. We're choosing to be better. We're choosing to heal, right? So that is going to conclude the very first episode of Offbeat Black Girl. I thank you so much for tuning in. There will be a new episode every single Friday. Every Friday at noon, there will be a new episode going through this self-healing journey. Allowing, I'm so honored that those tuning in want to be a part of this journey with me. Want to encourage other women to open up and not be afraid to have these real discussions on stress, on anxiety, on this complex that we have to be superwoman, and to really break down what that self-healing looks like. So in the event that you have any questions or comments or inquiries and you want to get in contact with me, feel free to reach me at offbeatblackgirl@gmail.com. And thank you for joining in. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.